How do you see India's position in this conflict?
We appreciate India's support. Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Netanyahu have spoken. Clearly, in the UN resolution on Friday, we would have wanted India to vote against. It was an outrageous resolution. It didn't mention Hamas once. It didn't call for an immediate return of the hostages. It's like having a UN resolution 3 weeks after 9/11 and not mentioning Al-Qaeda.
ইসরায়েল ফিলিস্তিন সংঘাতের মধ্যে আরো একবার ভারতের প্রশংসায় পঞ্চমুখ ইসরায়েলের পররাষ্ট্র মন্ত্রক। জাতিসংঘের ভোটাভুটিতে ভারত ভোট না দিয়ে ইসরায়েলকে সমর্থন জানিয়েছে বলে উল্লেখ করলেন ইসরায়েল সরকারের মুখপাত্র আইলন নেভি। তিনি বলেন, ইসরায়েল হামাস যুদ্ধ থেকে আমরা ভারতের সমর্থনের প্রশংসা করি। ইসরায়েল সরকারকে ভারত গোপন সমর্থন করেছে বলে মনে করছে ইসরায়েল সরকার। ইসরায়েল সরকারের মুখপাত্র আইলন লেভি ভারতের ক্রমাগত সমর্থনের জন্য প্রশংসা করে বলেন, আমরা ভারতের সমর্থনের প্রশংসা করি কারণ গত শুক্রবার জাতিসংঘের প্রস্তাবে প্রধানমন্ত্রী মোদি এবং প্রধানমন্ত্রী নেতানিয়াহু স্পষ্ট কথা বলেছেন, আমরা চাই ভারত এর বিরুদ্ধে ভোট করুক। এটি একটি আপত্তিকর রেজলিউশন ছিল। এটি একবারও হামাসের কথা উল্লেখ করেনি। এটি জিম্মিদের অবিলম্বে ফিরে আসার আহ্বান জানায়নি বলে উল্লেখ করেন নেতানিয়াহু সরকারের মুখপাত্র নেভি।
Hamas has even stolen people's car keys to stop them getting to safety. That is outrageous. We think that the whole international community, everyone concerned with the safety of civilians inside Gaza, should be urging them to evacuate from northern Gaza. It's a small distance for a short while, temporarily for their safety, because we don't want to see people being hurt. But we've been clear. We're going after all of Hamas's infrastructure, every person involved in the October 7th massacre. And if they're hiding underneath civilians, we want the civilians to get out of the way because we don't want them to be hurt, but we're going after those terrorists. Each and every terrorist involved in burning, beheading, raping, mutilating, and butchering Israelis on October 7th is a dead man walking.
There has also been anti-Israel protest all around the world. So what is your government doing when it comes to safety of your citizens and Jews around the world, like the one we saw in Russia yesterday?
It's horrific that we are seeing protests around the world calling for an intifada. Let me remind you what that was. In the early 2000s, Israel saw a wave of suicide bombings on an almost daily basis in cafes, in bars, in malls. That was the intifada, and we now have people on the streets of London and Paris calling to globalize the intifada, to spread more violence, more genocidal violence against Jews. This is outrageous. And by the way, this isn't a threat only against Jewish people. It's a threat to the whole world. Because when Israel suffered the intifada in 2000, 1 year later, Al-Qaeda did 9/11. And a few years later, there were suicide bombings on buses in London. And then in 2008, there was the horrific attack in Mumbai that everyone remembers and still traumatizes the people of India. So we've been clear. Israel might be on the front lines of this war against terror, but we are not the last target of the Islamist jihadists who perpetrated October 7th. And we need the whole world to wake up and understand that we're fighting not only for ourselves, we're fighting for humanity. And there can be no excuses for calls for genocide against Jews, calls for violence against Jews in protests around the world. That isn't a protest. That is incitement to violence. And that violence is going to happen unless the world gets a grip.
What about the internet blackout in Gaza amid this ongoing Israeli airstrike, since we know that Elon Musk has said that it will extend Starlink connectivity for humanitarian reasons?
I have nothing to add on the internet question other than to say that Israel is going to do everything it can to stop Hamas rearming and exploiting humanitarian corridors in order to continue waging its war of terror against the people of Israel.
How do you see India's position in this conflict?
We appreciate India's support. Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Netanyahu have spoken. Clearly, in the UN resolution on Friday, we would have wanted India to vote against. It was an outrageous resolution. It didn't mention Hamas once. It didn't call for an immediate return of the hostages. It's like having a UN resolution 3 weeks after 9/11 and not mentioning Al-Qaeda or the Twin Towers being brought down by plane strikes. So we appreciate the support of international friends that are standing by Israel's side and want Israel to defeat Hamas. And we want more of that diplomatic support, especially from our friends and allies.
What is your assessment? How long this war is going to be dragged? When can we expect peace in the region, which we all are praying for?
I'm not going to speculate on a timeline, but this isn't going to be short. We all want peace in the region. But in order for there to be peace, we cannot have Hamas. In order for there to be peace, we cannot have a jihadi organization that openly says it wants to murder all the Jews, still have an ability to do that. In order for there to be peace, Hamas must be consigned to history. And that is what Israel is going to do. We're going to destroy Hamas and hopefully then work together with the international community to rebuild the Gaza Strip in a way that ensures it can never be used as a base for attacks against our people again.
Thank you so much, Elon. Thank you for speaking with ANI, and I hope peace prevails in the region, and our heart
Thank you very much.
goes out
We
to all the
really
victims.
appreciate the support from you and from the people of India as well. It's very keenly felt here in Israel. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to confirm, I'll designate you as a spokesperson of Israeli government.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Elon.
সংবাদ এই পর্যন্তই, ফিরছি পরবর্তী অন্যান্য আপডেট নিয়ে। ধন্যবাদ।